So here I am. I'm sitting in Noah's classroom. I've just watched an entire lesson. He's in the largest district in his state, in a large urban comprehensive high school. And he was awesome. Like, he took some learners that came from a lot of different backgrounds. He engaged them personally, brought them into the work, and then the bell rings. Friday afternoon, kids are headed out the door, and then one learner comes back against the tide, against the current, to see Mr. Klein. And he says, Mr. Klein, I wanted to make sure I turned this paper into you. I want to make sure you got it before the weekend. And they have a little banter back and forth. And then he heads out the door, and Noah and I get to talk about that learner. And it turns out that school hasn't always been awesome for him. In fact, he typed that entire paper on his phone. But why did he turn it in? That was my question right away, and I'm sure it was yours. Was he worried about a detention or a grade? It was like, none of that. Absolutely none of that. That was the power of a positive classroom culture. And that's what we're talking about today. How do you create a positive classroom culture? Welcome to PBL Simplified for Teachers, where we simplify your PBL need-to-knows so that we can simplify the PBL process for your classroom. A positive classroom culture is not an extra. It's not the fluff that we do after we do all of our academic work. In fact, it's a must-have. If you want to get to the good work and the rigor that you're really getting for, you have to have a positive culture that moves your learners along. You see, a culture moves the mission. A culture is a multiplier. It multiplies the things that are happening in your classroom. It's like a current, right? A current's going to move you along, whether you're paddling this way or that way. That it's always forcing you in a certain direction. And a positive classroom culture can do the same thing for your learners. As soon as a learner walks in, they see the artifacts on the wall. Is it growth mindset, fixed mindset? Are things in progress or are they done? It's the norms that are there. And am I supposed to ask questions? Is that a norm in this classroom? Or am I supposed to have my hand down and just listen? It's how do we interact each day? And that culture starts to create those norms, and that's just how I act in that classroom. And learners will pick up on that. And you have a culture already. The question is your culture helping to move forward your values and your mission? So the question isn't, do you have a culture in your classroom? You do. The question is how can you intentionally create a positive classroom culture? So there are a lot of different ways to do that. At Magnified Learning, we do that in our PBL workshops by creating work that's super purposeful. When we create a PBL unit, our participants are making a unit that's in their grade level and their content area that they can implement as soon as they get back. That's a real-world engagement. We do protocols that they can use for adult learning and for student learning. We want everything we do to apply to what that classroom teacher is doing in their classroom. That's part of our culture. We also have a lot of small things, right? So this idea of like some swag, like some stickers, or these U-Lead cards are a great way to build culture. There'll be another PBL Simplified episode coming just on those, so get ready for that. You can also, like if you jump into our swag shop, we'll put a link down in the description. These ideas like, maybe it's a polo with your logo on it, right? Maybe it's those things that we believe, right? So what are the things that your classroom believes? Define those and do it with your learners, right? Like we believe we can do hard things. We believe that we do work together. Whatever those pieces are that you say and you believe, bring those into your learners and make them intentional. Get them to buy in. And when you do, they start to move the culture and you're not pulling, but that current is bringing them along. In the description below, we'll have some resources to help you create a positive culture in your classroom. But you've already got some really great things going on. So in the comments below, would you put one of your favorite culture building activities? What is it that you do so that learners feel safe in your classroom and they move along towards your mission? But how do you create a positive classroom culture when you're virtual? There's ways to do that too. And if you look in the links down below, I'll put a blog specifically about e-learning and culture. One way to do that is you can contact our friends at Attaboy. They do the music at the beginning and end of each one of these episodes, and they've always done in-person assemblies that are super positive and empowering for your learners, and now they do it virtually. Jump in and see what that looks like. As you do that, you'll engage your learners, tackle boredom, and transform your classroom.